think on my batch we were only 3 women in
Out of?
out of 25, I think. So
My.
yeah, and
Oh, wow.
I
That is quite
think
something.
we were only 11 who graduated because some like dropped out or like switched majors
Yeah.
in between.
Welcome to the Envision podcast channel.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Envision podcast. My name is Vanessa. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Envision, and I am really excited today to be talking to Abby, my colleague, especially for International Women's Day. That is on March the 9th, which is a Saturday this year. And so we're hoping that Abby's actually going to be putting her feet up and enjoying a break after working really, really hard on our new product and generally just being an all-round rock star. Our podcast is being streamed on multiple platforms, and we will also be sharing that with everybody on social media and across our community channels. So feel free to share with others, other women, especially other women that are thinking about going into engineering, and especially in software development, because that's actually what Abby's all about. So without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into some questions. So Abby, welcome. Welcome to the Envision podcast.
Thank
How
you
are
for
you?
having me. This is exciting. I'm doing good.
It is. And great. Yeah. And Abby and I normally meet because of, we'll explain in a second, the time zones are broad between us and the distance are broad. But I've been working with Abby. I think we've been working together for over 3 years now, Abby, right?
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, can you believe it? And we actually, this is the time first time we're going to kind of just kick back and chat. Normally we're meeting up in meetings or at the end of the week, team meet up where we just, shoot the shoot, as they say, with the rest of the team. But today is all about Abby. Tell us about Abby. Who are you? What do you like to do? And what do you do outside of creating amazing apps?
Yes. So hello, my name is Abby. I'm the iOS engineer and I work remotely from Manila, Philippines. What I like to do aside from creating apps is, to be honest, just watch a movie, get a glass of wine, and just chill, But if it's like the great outdoors, we like to hike and camp. But lately we like this thing called, I think it's called overlanding, on where you just drive somewhere and then you park your car and then you camp, like you put your tent out and stuff like that. So yeah, outdoorsy.
So cool. And is that easy to do where you are? I mean, is it relatively accessible to get out of the city and get into the countryside as such?
So we did move to a much quieter province, but it's fairly accessible. Like I think it's just 10 minutes on the major freeway. Is that what you call it there? Freeway, or like the highway, the national road, where you just have accessibility to go to the north or the south. So yeah. But for the camping stuff, it's a 3-hour drive, so it's also far away. But yeah, we would want to make time for it, for our mental, for the mental.
Absolutely.
Space,
I can imagine you're on screens a lot, so that kind of outdoor and getting a long view, right? So looking in the long distance. But we're coordinating with Shida's your colleague, right? Our colleague who's doing the same on the Android mobile side. We have other people building for Ally on the glasses, the Envision glasses, and also building a web-based version, right? Desktop version. So how do you coordinate all that together?
I think it's easier because my colleagues are great. They are great to work with. I think if I have any questions regarding UX side, like me and Shitij, we would actually sit down and think of the problem, because sometimes I would be overthinking things. Like, for example, the first thing that we actually released was, the recent thing we released was the auth, and that's just the login process, And sometimes you would overthink certain things, and I would go to Shitich. I would say, am I overthinking this? Am I overcooking or whatever? Am I missing something? And he would clear things, and then it's vice versa. So we
Yeah,
became,
no.
we became each other's coping mechanism. I don't know. Like sometimes we will just rant with each other. Like, I don't know what to do. There's just so many things, and
Because I think it's just also working remotely as well,
yes,
right? From Delhi in
Delhi,
India.
India.
So I mean, that makes it, doubly special. And he is a legend, of course, been with the Vision for a long time as well. But and I love the agency of the engineering team as well. You have to, take those decisions together. And when did you start working with Envision, Abby? How long ago was that?
Yeah. So when you sent me the questions, I was kind of like, when did I start at Envision? And believe it or not, it was 5 years ago. Can you believe it? Like, it
No,
was
really?
2019. I remember it was before pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember 2019 as well. I was supposed to go to the Netherlands to meet everyone.
That's right.
Right. But
Yeah.
then, visa things happens. But it was 2019. It was like 5 years ago. That was so crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm
Amazing.
so grateful to have worked before the pandemic. And yeah.
I know it was the big land shift, wasn't it, for everybody?
Mm.
Well, yeah, it's I just started. I can't remember now, actually, because it's 3.5 years ago. My mind's gone blank. I just remember we were getting ready to launch the
Feels
glasses,
like yesterday,
and then the pandemic.
no?
I know, and then a year later we
Yeah.
had to push everything with CSUN, which is around the corner any minute. This big assistive technology event in California, and a quick shameless plug for that, because we'll be there again this year. But again with allies. So yeah, it's I know Abby as the dog lover as well. You and I share pictures of our dogs in our weekly meetup, our Vrijmibo's on a Friday, which stands for Vrijdagmiddagborrel for those who speak Dutch. And it's when the whole company who is awake and conscious gets onto a Zoom call, and we just talk about anything that's not work related, don't we? And dogs come up quite a lot. So you have a dog. Tell me about the dog.
I do have a dog. His name is Patrash. He is a mini bull terrier. Yeah, and he's this very tiny but compact dog. Like and he doesn't look heavy, but when you pick him up, you can kind of like just use him as your weight, and you just squat and just lift him. Like, if I lift him, I use like all of my muscles in my body.
Because, dog fitness, love it.
Yeah, he's just so heavy and compact.
They are compact, right? Yeah. Pure muscle. No, brilliant. And we share, in the team we all share pictures of what we've done at the weekend sometimes, and Abby's has done the best, wins every time with the beautiful Filipino beaches and the lovely places that you go to around the Philippines. So keep sending those for the rest of us. Anyways, but Abby, great. And so you just explain what you do with Envision. I mean, I was thinking as well before this podcast, because of International Women's Day, how many women are there in ratio to men in the company? And actually, we are really quite gender balanced in the organization. I think, what are we, 25, 30 people?
Are we?
And I would...
we're also
something like that, yeah.
Oh, you know what? I just remembered right now. When I joined Envision, I think we were just 15. Like, yeah. And now we're 25. That's so amazing.
Yeah, if I think of the team we have in the US, we have, the Netherlands-based HQ kind of grows and reduces again. We have the interns coming in there, so we have at any time 3, 4, 5 interns kind of coming in and out, and they tend to be, majority of those tend to be based in the Netherlands, but actually we have Philip and a few others at the moment who are remote as well. And then we have the teams around, so like yourself and Shitich and so on. So it does sort of go around that. But I was looking at that haven't actually sat down and gone through the gender chat, but it does feel even to me, except, some departments are skewed more one way. The customer support team is more female orientated, and the engineering team more male.
Yeah.
In fact, Abby, if I'm correct, you're the only woman in the team. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
And
I'm not really sure. I
yeah,
don't think it's a gender thing. But
interesting.
yeah, I think even on my past work, I was the only woman. Like, or there will be 2, 3 of us. I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know why that is. But yeah, in the engineering field, we're just small amount of group of people which are female apparently. Yeah. So
exactly, it tends to be a theme. I mean, there's lots of talk about STEM subjects, the science and engineering kind of areas to motivate young girls to go into the field, and it seems still quite in some fields, some areas anyway, as far as I know, still quite unusual. How did you become the engineer you are now today? What was your backstory? How did you choose it? Was it just easy, a very obvious choice,
No.
or what got you to where you are?
Yeah. So I think I started as a UI UX designer. So basically what Furkan and Costanza are doing. So I do the UI and the UX on certain systems. And I remember it was a POS system at the time, so it was like a whole thing, and I thought that okay, this could be my thing because I enjoy it so much, like designing UI UX, and not just the colors and stuff, like what UX or user experience that actually makes sense for certain brands. Mm-hmm. And then I get to my next job, and then I started creating applications. So the applications, I think we were still using a cross-platform based framework, which is you develop it in HTML and then you compile it to iOS and Android applications. So I started with that. And I was solely, it's weird because I was solely developing for iOS, but I was using like a multi-cross platform. Yeah. So I was like, what if I could just stick to, iOS, which is the native one, which you should be using is Xcode. So that's what I'm doing right now. And the funny thing is, I kind of combine what I love, which is UI UX, and then developing applications into one, which is iOS, and what I'm doing right now. So yeah,
that's amazing. So design background. So wow, that's I never knew that, and that's fantastic because, again, as a lean, mean fighting machine that we are as an organization, to have those extra, a broad range of skills, it is super useful. You don't need to kind of revert back for every small thing to the design team. You probably can deal with it yourself, right? But that's super cool. And, I think of Apple as one of the, it seems to position itself as the leader on the accessibility, right? Certainly the tools I use for low vision, like the Zoom text and those really, really simple things. Sometimes I use voiceover and dictation, stuff like that. But, in terms of actually more advanced accessibility features and things like that, how, developing for that when you're building the apps and everything, does that add extra work to what you're doing? And if it does, is it a lot of work to develop for accessibility, or is it just baked in? You have to do it.
Yeah. So before, what we're using for developing UIs is really different what we've used for Ally. For an example, we use something. Wait, how do I explain this? Okay, so basically, the Envision app is developed different from Ally. So with that, it's more advanced, and sometimes I would actually design a certain UI, and the accessibility part is already there, which is super helpful, super grateful, because you don't have to,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to state on like, okay, this text should be headers. Sometimes we still do, because sometimes when we actually do the UI architecture of a certain screen, sometimes it will get confused on like what is what, and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there's still work, but it's not as much as what we used to do before when we were developing Envision. So yeah,
That's
but
cool.
there's still certain things that you have to look into. So it's a different process. So you have development, which is you create the whole screens and stuff like the UX, and then we go into the accessibility part, and like which UX is more suitable for
Mm.
voiceover users. So sometimes we do
Yep.
switch them, like, but what we want to do is not to change the two things, because yeah, it's more work for us as well. Like for non-voiceover users and for voiceover users, it should be the same, basically. So
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. And that development, that change in how the process you were talking about, is that because Apple has changed the way you develop for iOS, or is it different because of just the nature of the Ally app versus the Envision AI app?
I see. No, it's actually the language on how it's written. It's
Ah,
much more
okay.
easier now for us, but what I find is it's more accessible for voiceover users. Sometimes I don't even have to do anything, and it would say it's a text field. Sometimes
Nice.
Back on the day, back on the day when we would say a text field, you'd have to say like, oh, what kind of text field is it? Like, there's so many parameters on accessibility. Like, is it just for email? Is it just for password and stuff like that? But now you just say, oh, it's for password. This text field is password, and then accessibility would be, okay, it's password. I know it's
Nice.
password. Yeah.
Yeah, voiceover is incredible, isn't it?
Mhm.
And of course, talkback on Android as well. And for those who don't know what that is, that's an accessibility function on smartphones where people who are blind or low vision can actually just have their every feature function on their phone spoken out to them. So, people sometimes are surprised to see someone who's completely blind using a phone, but a mobile phone is as much, if not sometimes more important to someone who's blind than somebody who can see. And low vision, well, we need it all, really. Big
Yeah.
text and voiceover, it all helps. But Abby, that's fascinating. So, I mean, I could talk forever because I'm a geek at heart, and deep down, I can confess I actually did want to be an engineer, but I think that was more just a mechanical engineer rebuilding my car's engine.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that was another life. Well, that's another whole discussion. But here I am, anyways, working with the best in the field, which is really, really good. So you were talking. You're talking a bit about Ally, so I won't take too long about that bit because I think anyone who's following Envision will know about, will know what it is, and if not, check out the links in below. I'm sure we've got some links in there. But one of the lovely things with Ally, this everywhere AI assistance we call it, is the ability to customize and personalize, and you can choose your ally's voice and personality and all those things, especially on the iOS ones. The mobile allies are just probably the most advanced, right? So do you have a personality of your ally? Do you have some personality traits that you enjoy most with Ally, or what have you found to work for you?
Yeah, so I think for the pre-built ones, the go-to I have was Kai, because his
He's so mellow, isn't
yeah,
he?
his adjectives are literally calm and reflective, which I'm not. I'm not calm or reflective, so at least my ally is,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Let's have our all egos, right?
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And then if I or to create an ally, I think I have two. Which the first one, her name is iCarly, and she's just this sassy, very smart, like my best friend. And then, um, if I can create another one, which you totally can, an ally, you can create
Yeah, I
multiple
know.
allies.
Lots, right? Mm.
I created Loki, which is the demigod, the brother of Thor. So like,
Oh, yes, of course.
yeah, he's also so sassy. So that's why
Marvel analogy. Yeah.
I created him as well. So.
Oh, yeah. He's super sassy.
I
I didn't
love a
even think of a
sassy
Marvel
assistant,
character.
kind of like, why are you asking me this? You're supposed to know this already.
I need to do a Captain America one then, because I've
Mm.
just got a secret crush, which is not secret anymore on Captain America. I even have the T-shirt. Yeah, Loki, that's cool. Oh, well, we'll have to swap our. One of the things we've been talking about, right, is to kind of create not a marketplace, maybe that's the wrong word, but a place where we can all share allies and stuff. I mean, I hope that was an idea discussion on the roadmap.
Yeah.
That would be just
Okay. So I think you can share your allies. We did structure it in a way on where it is ready to be shared. So let's see if on the next release maybe we will.
yeah, on the next or the one after. But I mean, I think that's so much fun, and I think I mean, somebody said, one of our beta testers who are amazing, shout out for the beta tester community, aren't they, rock stars, they said the only limit is our imagination, right?
Yeah.
With people using it for everything, for presenting radio shows to getting qualified, finding new jobs, keeping them company, as well as, just getting on with everyday stuff. So hopefully by the time this podcast goes live on International Women's Day, Ally is out and in the stores and up and running. I mean, it is, but yeah, we're just down to the wire today, aren't we, Abby? So let's not go there. I know you've had very little sleep over this last week. Anyway, so, that's cool. I would love to meet your allies one day. Okay, International Women's Day. It's time for reflection. I always think time to look back at the women that we've become, and the women in our team, the people that are close to us, and the people that have inspired us along the way. And being like the oldest virtually in the company, not quite, there's one more person, I won't name him, but we feel like we're the grandparents of the organization, and I cannot say hands on heart that I had many role models as women when I was starting out in my career, and there was one. Funny enough, my very first manager was awesome, and then years later I worked in Hong Kong, worked for an amazing Chinese lady called Hester, and she just taught me I think the biggest asset. I'm trying to think how to name this. I think it was just resilience, actually, and it was just amazing. But from your side, if you were to go back to Abby at 18 years old, or Abby when you were thinking about where you are and what you're doing now, what advice would you give a younger you?
Yeah, I think I would advise her to, slow it down, because when we were young, we were like, oh, I can't wait to have a job and like just make money, But I think you should just enjoy being your youthful self without all of the other responsibilities, because you have your whole adult life to actually do those types of things. But for career wise, I would say just start from remote work from the beginning, and
Interesting.
yeah,
That's really wild.
yeah,
Really,
because I remember my first work was in a bank. It's called Union Bank of the Philippines.
I know you. Yes,
It's actually in the heart of Manila, and I would wake up at 5:30 a.m. just to catch all of my commutes, and just in hopes I would clock in without missing a time, because there's deduction if you're late. Like, there's too much. So yeah, I would advise her to, I guess, get a remote work immediately, But then again, there's so many things that you can learn from an on-site experience, especially and
Yeah.
your colleagues on how you communicate and stuff like that, and how you
Yeah.
present yourself as well. So I don't know what I would say to my 18-year-old self, but I guess I would just basically say that to slow it down and just enjoy
Yeah.
everything and not just be in a rush all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really beautiful advice. And I think remote working, I mean, for us as a business, we couldn't, well, we work well because of the mix we have, right?
Mm,
We, some people like yourself and Shadish and a few others, we have no, and our US team, of course, but, they have no choice but to work remotely from the Dutch head office, right? But even when we do meet up in the HQ, we're lucky if it's a couple of days
mm-hmm.
in the week where everybody's in there. We try and coordinate it now, and more recently we tried to do that so that teams like the design and marketing team, certainly, we sit together so that we just spring more ideas with each other, and we just get stuff done better. And
That's
you can have
true.
those conversations, just look each other in the eye and just say, which for me needs to actually be
Yeah.
quite close.
It's actually,
But those,
if you sit down and have the proper conversation, like face to face, you would get answers immediately than just typing it in.
you can,
'Cause,
yeah,
yeah.
it does. But I also, on the other hand, I think your communication skills are really, really good, Abby, because you've had to hone in on those working remotely, right? So I think if those are comfortable and working well, then working remotely, of course, becomes easier. But the slowing down, that is really interesting. I think that's such good advice. But in
Yeah.
practice, thinking back to all of us, I think we're probably
Yeah, no.
all running around
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
And at 18, were you done with school at 18? Where were
I
you at
think
18?
I'm still in school. I'm in second year
Yeah,
college at that time.
second
Yeah.
year college. Yeah, yeah. I was in my final years at school, so I was
Mhm.
sort of just sort of desperate to get out there and do the
Yeah.
next thing, I must admit. So yeah, at full sprint. But no, that's brilliant. And role models then
Mm-hmm.
for you, you worked in a bank, you had colleagues there. Who have you got people that are role models? I mean, don't necessarily have to be engineers or even in the workspace, it could be
Mm-hmm.
anyone that have kind of been inspiring for you with your career so far.
Um, I don't think I have women role models that can line up with my career. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but if I were to think about it, I would say maybe my husband. I don't know
Yeah,
because
that's
he was
lovely.
the first one to. He was the one who actually found Envision, which is so cool.
That's so
So
cool. I didn't even ask you how you came across Envision. Yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah.
you're tiny, right?
I was in my former job, which is on the bank, right? And then I got really tired on the whole commuting and stuff like that. So I tried to find remote work, and he was the one who introduced me to remote work because he has been working for like 5 years. I think by that time, fully remote. So I said, okay, yeah, let's try it. Maybe we can, travel and then work at the same time. Like, who knows? And so he
Nice.
was the one who actually sent me Envision. Like, oh, look at this. Like, and then I downloaded their app and like, oh, it's an accessibility app. And at the time, I didn't know what accessibility means. I have never used VoiceOver with my iPhone. Like, I don't think I needed to
Yeah.
at
No.
that time. Like I didn't even know what the gestures were. Like, I have to learn everything as well on
Yeah.
how accessibility works, and like it's very different from, for an example, on how we enter our email. Well, we just type our email, right? But to them, it's very different, and yeah, you have to cater to that. But for role model, yeah, I think it would be him because yeah, we won't be here. I won't be with Envision if I didn't submit, you know. an application
Yeah.
to the Karthik. So I'm very grateful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, well, please thank him for us.
Yes.
I feel like I know him because he's sometimes in the background, literally. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And serendipity, right? And I think the very fact, one thing, you've got a designer heart, right? And you're an engineer. And I had one question, which actually we didn't kind of have on the list, but it's sort of related to the one earlier. You're talking about, learning how to use the accessibility tools on the iOS device yourself, as well as for building for it and designing for it. Do you feel restricted by that accessibility requirement compared to other apps and other products you've done which haven't put accessibility first?
Yeah.
What does building for accessibility first, does that feel restrictive in any way?
So I think what is great about iOS or any OS from Apple is that they do have great accessibility on the device itself. So that's a good thing. But for developers, or like some of the applications are not even accessible, and it's the last thing, or they don't even cater to accessibility because it is like extra work as well.
Yeah.
But I think it should be the same as making your app beautiful. It should also be accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
So even if it's
beautiful in another way, right?
Yeah. So even if it's for the colorblind, it should cater to that. It should cater to the visual impaired. So yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. And I always think there's almost a secret club of people who write alt text on images, for instance, and read them.
Yeah.
Because so few sighted folks realize about alt text. That is the text description of an image that you put out online. So you should always add alt text. And for people who are reading your documents or looking at your content with screen reader or voiceover or anything else. And it's very, very cool when it's written really well. And there's a sort of art form with that, like being any good writer or any creative person, and like audio descriptions on films and things. But also, I think in that whole UX around apps, that is beautiful. And I know your apps have won awards, Abby, because, that's my job to know these things. You've won the Apple Viz Award with your apps, right?
Yes,
on the Envision app.
It was last year.
Congratulations.
Was it last year?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was. I need to double check. We won a different award this year, which was a new award for more a general contribution. And the name escapes me now, which is shocking. Again, it will be in the notes. But the actual for best accessibility app, we've won that. Yeah, I won it twice, if I remember. And that's you, isn't it? So congratulations. That's fantastic.
That is amazing. No, I think that this is the best part on what I do, is not just the awards. Actually, it's actually the people saying, "Oh, thank you for creating such an amazing tool for me to buy groceries," or like doing things that are so common, like turning off the light or finding the remote, or like what station in the radio, and yeah.
That's beautiful. And we do get a lot of feedback, right? So we've got people putting reviews up about the app through the App Store itself and things like that. But we also have a very active community in our beta testing group, of generally user communities as well on all the usual channels and things. And they don't hold back on their comments, do they?
Yes. Yeah. And I think those are the best comments, and those are the best feedbacks, is the one that, like nitpick all of the things, which it's super helpful in our case, because as a sighted person, I would not know what to do on a certain UX, right? So they do things differently, so they know what's best for.
And it's a great collaboration, isn't there, between our beta tester group and the developers, and it seems a very short line of communication, almost direct, right, to get that feedback.
Yeah. Sometimes I have to reach out to a certain person who has having difficulty in a certain area, and then I would explain to them on why we did this certain thing the way it is, and yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
But Abby, listen, thank you so much. It's been really great to chat. We need to do more of this.
Yeah.
And, I have 100 and other questions. I think, for women, especially today, thinking about coming in and maybe hearing this and thinking, wow, I'd be like to do that.
I think the best advice if someone were want to start with application development or like systems development, I think the first thing is maybe to go to UI UX first, because I think the hardest part on what I finished in school is computer science, is actually choosing on like, what am I gonna do? Am I going to be front end or like back end, like like what am I gonna do? And I think the best advice is to just dabble on the two, like sometimes you're front end and then back end, because you'll never know on which one would stick to you, and sometimes maybe it doesn't make sense, but a certain thing would be probably more you're passionate about, like maybe it's the coding style, or like it should be on this platform or whatever, or like it should be on this UI UX and sort of thing. So just try everything. Try everything.
And as a 17 or 18-year-old young woman sort of thinking about going in, and so you turn up at the college and you see this room full of guys, and you think, oh my, is it just me? When you did your course though, was it fairly balanced? Was there as many women in your courses? No, I thought I knew the answer to that question, but I just wanted to check.
Yeah, no, I think on my batch we were only 3 women
out of
25, I think. So and
oh wow, that is quite something.
We were only 11 who graduated because some like dropped out or like switched majors in between. But I guess
it's hard when there aren't. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Abby.
Sorry. No, I guess for the gender part on where it is more male dominant field, I think I would suggest on building your confidence as well. Talking to men, like how would you approach your colleague and stuff like that. So do whatever it takes to build your confidence on whatever it is that your field is in. And don't think too much about it. I don't think it's how do I say, it's not supposed to be like an only men environment, if that makes sense. Like it's supposed to, women are very, very welcome, but just for some reason not much women are applying for these types of fields or even taking the course itself. So I encourage women.
Well, I do too, and I strongly do. And I think somebody once said to me, it was just the fact that it's hard being the fewer out there. But if you focus on the common passions and interests, why you're all in that room together, and use that as the way to connect, and not focus on the differences. It's easier to say that when you're in the majority. It's harder in the minority. And I think it does take a level of bravery and robustness and resilience. But I came through the marketing field and the comms field, which is heavily female skewed when I started, at least. And it was pretty much for the guys as well. If there was a guy in marketing, it was like, why
I
couldn't you make
see.
it in sales or something? Or couldn't you do it in engineering? And it was just almost the foot, she was on the other foot sometimes. But I don't think that's the case at all now. But I think, thank goodness. But I think you say, yeah, I like it. Is just, build your resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Put on your, I won't use the word on the podcast, but your big girl's pair of underwear
Yeah.
and deal with it, right? But
Yeah.
it does take resilience. And I think the other women in your batch, you guys, were you close? Did
Yes.
you hang out together? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
We're
bet.
close, but as time goes by, I think we're just there's too much going on, like life,
Well,
So
life takes over, right?
yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
time, I can imagine. Yeah. Abby, thank you so much. We've gone way long here,
It's
and it's
okay.
been really, really fantastic. Are you doing something special on Saturday? It is International Women's
Um.
Day, but
I think we are going to. Um, I'm still thinking because I'm not entirely sure if it's that what we're doing. Uh, my friend is actually looking for venues for her wedding,
oh
and
wow,
yeah, we
that's
are going to
nice.
go somewhere part of the beach, and because she would want to have a beach wedding, so yeah,
Okay, so more beach pictures are coming.
yeah,
Okay, if I'm on your Instagram feed, I'll be warned for those beautiful beach
yeah,
pictures from the Philippines again.
yeah,
Getting away from the shore.
yeah.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you, Abby. That's really, really
Thank you
cool.
so much.